It's John. Welcome to my YouTube channel, John Cooper Pet Photography. Today we are joined by a special guest, the first guest we've welcomed to this channel. That's Bob's Broadbent of Dog Nose and Puppy Training Lichfield. She's ran a successful dog business since the year 2000 when she set up her own dog walking business and successfully grew that into a six-figure business. Subsequently, she's gone on to offer that out as a franchise to a number of different people who've gone on and grown their own businesses. And she's done that at the same time as running a successful puppy training school that is now in Lichfield. So, Bob's, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you for inviting me. And I didn't know I was the first guest, so that's even more special. Thank you.
You know, I'm really pleased to welcome you to this interview. I think it's perfect timing to discuss a number of different issues, because there's two sides to what you do. There's the franchise business, which helps people build a career, change from a career that they're not happy with, and go into that sort of dog walking side of things and develop a business. And then there's the puppy training side, which have both been affected by this COVID-19 situation. I imagine there's lots of people wanting to maybe change career on the back of that. And there'll be a number of people, I think, that have maybe got puppies that they haven't spent as much time with as they would like. Perhaps we can start on that side, Bobs. Tell us a little bit about the puppy training side of your business. Well,
I actually moved into the area a couple of years ago and set up Puppy Training Lichfield. I previously had a puppy training school, a dog training school in London for 10 years and in Rutland for 3 years. And I've worked my way around, and now I have to say I plan to stay in Lichfield because I like it. And actually the reason that I train puppies is because that's what I like doing as well. So Puppy Training Lichfield is it's almost an indulgence for me, because it's what I have chosen out of everything that I do that I enjoy the most. And I specialise in helping people who have brought a puppy into the home and need that really good start, so that they can have that dream dog, that dream adult dog that they had when they thought about getting a dog. Because people don't think about the troubles that they get from puppies, which are all natural. They always think of the family walking in the wood, throwing the stick or the ball, and the dog bringing it back, which is wonderful and why we want our dogs to be with us. But it all starts from puppyhood. And if they get a great start, then that's going to help realise that dream for the family.
Yeah, absolutely. And so prior to the COVID-19 situation, how did you run your business? What was a sort of typical situation for a new puppy owner? How would they work with you?
Well, I ran my training school at War Village Hall and on Monday evenings, and I also had access to that to do some individual lessons as well at other times during the week and on Saturdays. And the form is a 6-week course that we offer, and it's a very well thought through course. So it covers what you might expect, which is often people think in terms of sit and lie down and stay and things like that. But we incorporate lots of tips and advice, puppy behaviour advice that helps people how to deal with play biting, how to deal with avoiding and preventing puppies from jumping up. There's lots of things in terms of helping puppies to trust humans and understand more about. I think people do have an understanding of what socialisation is. They get a puppy, they realise they've got to prepare that puppy for the human world. Yeah. But I think they think it's just about playing with dogs, and there's a lot more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a huge responsibility, isn't it? And a lot to take on. So that sort of service is invaluable. How did COVID affect your business? I imagine that it sort of went away overnight. And how have you reacted? Because I understand you've now got sessions that you're able to offer.
Well, I was in the middle of a course. I think we'd done week 3, and fortunately it was a small course. only a couple of people on that course at the time. But we were going to, I put in some measures the last lesson we had, made a grid on the floor so we knew our 2 meters. We all had to bring everything and use our own materials. And although it seemed to work quite well, there was a little bit of concern about it on my part. And then, of course, on the Sunday before our next class, we went into the hard lockdown. And that was our decision made. We had to close down overnight, literally, wow. As you say. For many businesses as well, it was the same. And at the time, I didn't really know what we were going to be able to offer. And I just asked people to hold on and see what was possible, that hopefully we could take it online and do some classes. I didn't really at that time know how we were going to do that.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it was only 3 weeks that we were able to get running again online.
Oh, wow.
I think it helps being part of a really good organisation like Puppy School. And one of the things that I've been very impressed with over this is the dog training community. There's been extraordinary things going on with people sharing, giving free courses so that trainers could offer it to make some income, because this went right across the country. Obviously, any dog trainers just could, and a lot of people are self-employed. I'd say the majority are self-employed, and so their incomes have sort of gone, and it's been very difficult for them to get back up and running. So lots of things are being shared in terms of, as I say, free courses that people could offer on their websites to people. But as an organisation, Puppy School really got their act together, and videos were produced, and we took it online. And so the idea is that I am still coaching. It's still a live coach. It's not an online course that you do. It's something which we still continue. I'd say the quality of the training is just as good. We're able to explain what an exercise is, and then show a video of how it should be done, which in class we would do that as a demonstration. And then I can coach them and watch them in their rooms at home doing the exercises. Yeah, and it is great. And actually, it's one of the things that I have taken out of it, which I've really enjoyed, is that it shows how good a trainer you are in terms of being able to observe the people doing the exercise. And it's about pinpointing small differences that can make a big change to how the puppy reacts. So for me, I've got a lot out of it as well, and it's something that I have really enjoyed being able to do. And actually, I've been really impressed with the standard and the quality that has come through. Really, really fantastic. So it's been really encouraging, and I think it's probably not going to go away, because there are always people who can't make it to a class, or who don't want to go to a class for some reason, who may well want to buy into the online offer. We've proven it's successful, and it does take away, obviously, the social side of it. And we can't replicate that, but in terms of the training element, there's no question that we've replicated that, and people who've been on the course have had just as good experience as if they would have done face-to-face, which I am really, really proud of.
Yeah, brilliant. And is that done through a mobile phone? Is that typically how it works?
Well, I mean, basically any device that's got a camera feature, but what we have found is that smartphones and iPads have worked really well. I suppose that's been the biggest challenge, has been the techie side of it. But it hasn't been as big a challenge as I thought it would have been. Surprising how many people have been able to cope. I mean, there's lots of people that have plugged in their devices to their huge TVs, and that was giving me the heebie-jeebies, thinking, oh my God, what size am I in their room?
Yeah, you're on glorious widescreen.
Yeah.
Love it.
But it's been good. I had a really funny situation where we were trying to help people to understand that they can leave the room and we can watch their puppies to see how they're coping when being left, because there's this concern. That was a great idea, and that just came about a few weeks ago. And so as one owner left the room, the puppy came straight up to the iPad or camera, whichever it was, and started looking straight at me, which was quite funny. I got a lovely photograph too. So, I think people have really coped very well with it, and they've had great opportunity to do lots of training. And maybe that has been the reason why they've done so well, because they have been doing lots of training. They haven't had the pressures of everything else in their life.
Of course, the opposite will be true, won't it, Bobs? There'll be a lot of people that weren't aware of the option to remotely, to do remote training, and have perhaps not felt like they've got access to that.
Mm.
Do you think there'll be knock-on effects from a training point of view on the back of COVID?
Well, I think certainly from when I put out an Instagram post just yesterday, I've had 8 or 9 requests for one-to-one training, and I think if people start to realise that training isn't a chore, it's something that you can enjoy, and actually then you want to do a bit more, that's where you might bring in some professional help, see if you can do more. And yes, you can go online and you can see YouTube and you can do online courses, but nothing's quite as specific as being able to see you with your puppy or dog and help you, whether that's remotely or whether it's in a venue. But I think being able to do things like develop a really good recall, which is really important. And as more people are walking and perhaps taking the dogs who've been on lead a lot, taking them off lead, they might start to realise that they need to brush up on the recall, for example. There might be issues, for example, a lot of dogs will have been taken away from meeting other dogs, and that can lead to them lunging towards dogs because they want to see them. So we might end up having some issues. There's been a lot of talk about separation concerns, dogs who have not been left at all, because you need to teach a puppy that it's okay to be left. If they're never left, then they never learn it, and then they're scared when they are left. So again, that's something that we've been doing in puppy school and recommending and suggesting that people just do small actions first of all, but then build up to leaving the puppy. And the other thing that I've been recommending is that people consider the routine that they will be going back to, and think about how they can try and emulate that in some way, so that for the puppy it's not such a shock. They've got some element of when they sleep and when they play and when they walk, that there's some routine there that is familiar to them, which make it easier for when they do go back into that routine.
Now, that's not something I'd thought about actually, because especially if they've been born into that sort of, from a dog's point of view, sort of perfect situation where owners are around all the time and they get nice walks and they're doing this, that, and the other, and of course that's about to go as people return to work. So that sounds like quite an important consideration. But the good news is, if you're aware of it, I guess it's something you can deal with.
Yeah, and I think if you are starting to think about it now, then there's lots of things that you can do to work towards it. And certainly within the industry, we're trying to get that message out there to help people to understand. Especially, I think there's probably a lot of people that perhaps were planning to get puppies later in the year or during the summer holidays, and they might have fast forwarded to get that puppy whilst spending time at home. So, for them, they then might realise that they're actually going back to work before the summer holidays, and things might change. I mean, it's all up in the air, isn't it? Nobody really knows exactly what the situation is. But what I can say is there's a whole bank of dog walkers out there who will be wanting to build their businesses back up, to bounce back. And, some customers won't be ready to have the dog walked again. So there may be spaces with really good dog walkers where they would have been full previously. But I think if there's a way that you can get some support to help doing that, that would be really good. And on the other side, we know that there are some anxious dogs that have suddenly become really, really relaxed, knowing that both owners are around all the time.
Yeah.
So that, there's other aspects to that, of realising that actually it was that social aspect that they needed. So I really hope that, at the moment, from a dog training point of view, we are very limited in what we can do. Group classes are not an easy thing to do currently, so which is why I'm not offering group classes. I think just putting too many people in a room together will make it very difficult to keep social distancing. So I'm choosing not to do that, but I'm offering the one-to-ones. But I hope that I can just continue with the online ones for much longer. It just feels a lot safer. And actually, there are some benefits. The puppies are more relaxed. The owners are more relaxed, and they're getting the same training and lots of advice, probably more advice and tips relevant to them on a one-to-one basis as well. So, we'll just have to wait and see how things work out.
Yeah, I guess with the remote stuff, it's very. Is it easier actually then for people to to understand how they can replicate that training in their own home, because of course they've already done it.
Well, if they're training in the home, is that what you mean? Because more people can see.
Yeah. Yeah. So you may be learning in the church hall, and then come home and maybe don't automatically see how you translate that at home. I don't know. Is that an issue or not?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, and certainly for any group classes that go forward, it is one person, one dog, for the moment anyway. But if you're in this situation, more people can look on and see in the family, and we can even download the videos for people to go back for that week to look at as well. So I do think there's a lot of benefits to doing that online. So they can put that into practice straight away, as you say.
I mean, I suppose the central message that comes out of this for me, if you've had a puppy during the lockdown period and you're concerned about the fact that you've perhaps not put as much time into the training side as you would under normal circumstances, there's something you can do straight away. Perhaps there are options for them to reach out and maybe do some remote training.
Yeah.
So that it's not the position isn't lost for them. They can deal with that straight away.
Well, they can, and literally straight away. So they can start from before vaccinations have completed. So that's the other great thing, that whereas they would normally have to wait until the vet says they can go out after the second vaccinations, they now don't need to do that. They can start from 8 weeks. So we've got puppies going through who, ordinarily would only just be starting. So that's great. And something that I haven't mentioned yet is that we are about to launch also a follow-on, which is Super Pup. So we're going to be offering something to progress from puppy school on as well. And that's going to be really exciting too. So yeah, I mean, dog trainers are doing an awful lot to try and help, particularly new puppy owners, and also people with problems or needing help for that. But certainly in the Lichfield area, I've also extended the area that I'm covering in the hope that I can find new venues for later in the year. But yeah, so if people are interested, if they're in the West Midlands and they want to know what they can do, then please contact us, contact me, and I can give them information on the courses that are coming up.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we put all those details for people so they're easily accessible. What would you say to somebody that's got a puppy, I don't know, it's maybe 6 months old, it's missed that sort of training period because of the lockdown? What would you say to somebody in that situation that wants to start now and maybe thinks it's too late?
You can always start training. You can train an old dog. There's no limit. But obviously, during puppyhood, you can help that puppy by doing it as early as possible. But if you have got a 6-month-old puppy and you realise you thought you would be able to put it off until after lockdown, I would say really go about trying to get training straight away, because things aren't going to go back to normal for some time. Yeah. So it's really some training is better than no training, and there may well be some ways, as I say, on a one-to-one possibly, or online training. Brilliant.
And just some practical tips I'd like to try and explore if possible, Bobs. From my own experience working with people, to take photographs of their dogs, two of the most common concerns they have are recall, letting their dogs off the lead, and what I refer to as sort of lead craft, that behaviour whilst on the lead. If we look at that recall element, what's the quickest way or the best way to start sort of reinforcing some of that behaviour and getting some good recall going?
So the thing about recall is that really what you're trying to do is to condition a dog to hear a word, a whistle, a sound that means if they're heading in the wrong direction, it means to turn on a pin and come back to you. And you can sort of have two different recalls. You can have kind of an everyday recall, which means It's a bit like, yeah, in a minute, but I'm on my way back. And then there's an emergency recall where when you call them, they need to come back, maybe saving them from going to road or what have you. I think most people are happy with a good everyday recall. But even if you haven't got that, then obviously it's a bit of a liability letting your dogs off the lead. And I'd say particularly now where, ideally the touching and the mixing of dogs from different households isn't ideal. It's not a complete no-no, but it's not ideal. Being able to control your dog and get them back is important, and particularly because if you can't get your dog back and you have to go over and be close to somebody to get hold of your dog, then that is where people are probably not going to be too happy about. So there's every reason why recall needs to be really sharp, and if you're going to let your dog off the lead. So in terms of how you can do that, well, the most important thing is you need to condition a word or a phrase or a whistle that the dog understands. It can be combined with something which is really nice and special. So you can do that by literally blowing a whistle and offering a reward, blowing a whistle, offering a reward, or saying a word. So come back, and offering a treat. And then trying to extend that space so that they learn that even if they're doing something else, they come back. So in puppy school, we train that over sort of 5 weeks, and we build the distractions as we go. But the very beginning bit is there are some elements that you need to also be aware of. So the reason that sometimes people have problems getting the dog back is because the dog comes back, but then when they go to grab them, the dog skirts away really quickly.
Yes.
It's very common. So one of the really good things to do is to just try and have a really nice reward that you can bring the dog or the puppy in very close to you, so you can just gently hold onto the collar underneath. Any grabbing, any fast movements, and the dog is away, and the dog will learn off your body language far quicker than anything that you're doing. So it's really about them trusting to come close to you so you can gently hold the collar. And if you can do that, reward them, but then let them go and then call them back. And you can do this in your garden, you can do it in your home, just practice. So every time you call them to you, just gently hold the collar and then offer a reward. So that they get used to the idea that coming back close to you is a good thing to do. If you haven't got a good recall, then invest in a harness and a long training lead, sometimes called a drag lead, available online, available at puppyschool.co.uk actually as well. A harness, get a nice fleece harness that fits well, which gives you the ability to attach it to the harness so it's not pulling on the neck. The leads can be 5 meters, they can be 10 meters, and it gives you the ability to let them run, but specifically for this, it gives you the ability to train in a more realistic way with recall. So you can stand on the lead and they've got 10 meters where the dog can have a sniff around, and you can practice calling them back in more realistic areas like a park, for example.
Oh, right. It just gives you the confidence to do that without fearing that you've lost control. Yeah,
it gives you some management. So you need some management in place in order to practice, in order to gain that confidence. So you do that. And, there are some dogs who have very bad recall, and, this is probably for people who have done some work but need to brush up on it. There's a lot of other things, but you essentially need to do also is to help that puppy or dog to really see you as a source of fun and a reason to come back to. So meanwhile, lots of play, lots of games with toys, lots of fun, things that the dog wants to come back to and have a reason to come back. So that's really about relationship. And so relationship building is a big part of modern dog training. And it's, in some ways, it's the nicest bit because you get to spend time with your dog having a great time. But what you're actually doing is building this relationship. I mean, dogs are great companion dogs because they are sociable dogs. That's they behave within a pack environment because they're sociable, and that's why they're so great for humans, because they are sociable with us. So we need to be sociable with them. We need to make sure that we're building that relationship, which underpins so much of the training that we do.
Yeah, it's that sort of reward through play as much as sort of reward through food. I know that I was, before we had our dog, as a pup, I was quite naive in terms of believing that it was reward through feeding, but we quickly learned with Max that actually the play side was just as effective in reinforcing some behaviour than the treat side.
Yeah, I mean, food is a fast promoter of what you want them to do, but for some dogs, toys are more valuable. But really what you want is a whole array of things that you can use. And that's really part of what we do in puppy school, to try and help them to build a repertoire of tools that you can use for training. And, you know, if you're always rewarding a very high value reward, so say you're using chicken or cheese all the time, it's a bit like Christmas Day. You know, this is one of the phrases I use. If Christmas Day was every day, it wouldn't be so exciting.
No.
So you need to have a hierarchy. You need to have them working. You know, once they've learned something, you reduce the value of that reward, because they don't need to have something high value all the time. Yeah. So it's understanding the reward schedule. So it is not just as simple, and reward-based training is not simple as just using food. There is much more of a science to it, and that's what modern dog trainers use. It's the science that underpins the methods that we use, and we explain all that in puppy school, so that people from the very beginning understand it, so that they know how to progress with a puppy. That's really exciting to see people really understand, because it changes the whole concept of why they're using food and how to use food. So you can use, if you're feeding your dog dry kibble, you can use that kibble to reward them if it's something they've already learnt, and they'll happily consider that as a reward.
No, that's really.
Sorry, and I could talk all day about reward-based training.
Yeah, it's great. I'm sure people will value, you know, the insight, because it is such a vast subject with, you know, a lot that for people to learn and enjoy. And I think that's the bit that comes across most to me, is actually we all benefit, not just the puppy, but, you know, there's the learning side for everybody. Which is something to enjoy. This is a personal bit of information that we like. We with Max, our Jack Russell Terrier, we were told, you know, you can't train a Jack Russell and you can't train a Terrier and you can't do this, and it got us thinking about stereotypes about different breeds. To what extent does breed affect the ability to or not to train a dog?
Well, it certainly can have an effect. I mean, certainly you need to know what the breed that you select, what it was designed to do. So what was its purpose in life originally? And if you have, for example, the very popular crossbreeds, for example, a cockapoo. Cockapoo has 2 lines in it. In fact, 2 potential breeding lines, depending on the type of poodle that's involved. It doesn't necessarily dilute, it can actually double the desire. But everything really comes from the prey drive that breeds have. And if you look at the prey drive from watching and stalking right the way through to, for example, catching and shaking and killing, think of your terrier. Yeah. Well, they're going to be all the way along there.
Oh God, yes.
And then if you think of a companion dog like a King Charles Spaniel, they're going to be right at the other end. Now, that's not to say that they all behave in that way, but that is the DNA. You can't change the DNA. And, well, we have, to a certain extent, changed through selection of how we've bred dogs. But essentially, we can't change how dogs are developed through DNA, no more than we can for ourselves. So that's one element. And the other element is learned behaviour. So how can we teach them to behave in a certain way? And that's where training comes in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been quite surprised what we've been able to do with Max, and the amount of fun that the kids have had on the back of that. You know, his recall is really good most of the time, unless he's really distracted by some a rabbit or
something moving fast.
Yeah, then it's a problem. You know, and he's some useless skills that he's been taught to, you know, to shake a paw and roll over and all these things, which are great fun. And it's been a real pleasure to see him develop, grow, and for our children to get pleasure from that as well. So I would certainly urge anybody to get out, get some training, learn and grow. You know, grow with your puppy and enjoy it, really.
I mean, I think from a puppy point of view, the more you can put in early on means you've got some foundations. If you don't put those in, then you haven't got a foundation to go back to. And we know that when they hit adolescence, that's when problems become more difficult to deal with, because in a certain extent it's their job to test the boundaries, it's their job to act like an adolescent, and but it is a phase, and if you can get through that phase, then you're going back to really good foundations. What often happens, people let the training till it gets to that point where they're having a few problems through going through adolescence, and then it's not impossible. There's plenty of things that you can do, but it just means you've got to put that bit more extra work in. And if you've done it earlier on, then you've got something that you can go back to and work from.
Do you work with older dogs at all, Bobs? Do you do anything on that side?
So it's not to say that I have in the past. I've done all breeds, all ages, but I sat down and I thought, well, what do I enjoy the most? And I love working with puppies. I love helping people from the beginning. I love using my knowledge to help people. So I have previously done behaviour consultations, but do you know what? They're just not what I want to do right now. But I use my knowledge of behaviour to help those people that I work with. So essentially it is young puppies, but I'm certainly going to work with people coming out of lockdown who may have struggled with training during that time to help them. So I'm kind of working to about 1-year-old dogs at the moment, just for the next few months whilst I can help people as much as I can. I'll see where that takes me. But puppies are really, you have to think about, when we talk about careers, you have to think about what do you enjoy doing? What gives you the biggest thrill? And working with puppies is what I love. So that's what I choose to do. I specialise in them. I do lots of continual professional development about them, and there's always something to learn. And I still, so that's what I've said to myself: do the things you like doing most.
And I suppose that's a perfect opportunity to maybe to segue into the other side of what you do, which is the dog walking side of things and the franchise. Can you tell us a little bit about your start really with the dog walking side, how you got into it, and what happened?